Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's session. And we have a very amazing, interesting, and unique guest. So you're going to learn in a very unique and direct and ungarnished truth what it is like to take the data analytics journey, how you go from, like we said, from zero to becoming a hero. And in this case, becoming a career data analyst, someone who this is what you're doing for large organizations within Nigeria and even getting opportunities outside of Nigeria. So this person has all of those exposure, and also working for clients outside of Nigeria. So I will not want to do the talking on his behalf. He's going to do all of that. So his name is Otalor. He's going to introduce himself and, take you through this amazing journey into this wonderful field that everybody is now interested in. So Evans, thank you for accepting to be on this our event, and thank you for making our time for our audience today. So over to you.
Okay, hello. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Evans Otalor, and I'm a data scientist, and I work as a consultant, mainly for a bank in Nigeria. I also do a lot of tutoring internationally as well. So I am associated with two international universities, and I take lectures and mentorships there on a weekly basis. Okay, so the goal here is to try to communicate how my journey has been like in terms of building myself as a career data analyst, to put it simply, right? From the very basics of my education and how I have developed since I got my education to where I am right now. I'm just going to use a PowerPoint presentation just to guide me towards the various steps that I would like to discuss with respect to how my journey has been over time. So please, can I share my screen now?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay. Let me know when it's up.
Yeah, money. It's yet to come up. Not yet up.
It's not yet up.
It's not yet up.
Okay, just a second.
I hope it's not that.
Let me try it again. Okay.
Yes, I think it's now, right? Great.
Okay.
So, pushing. Yes. All right. So you're up now.
Okay, so that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so I'll start from my education to my first jobs, talk a bit of how I started to settle down as a data analyst, looking for my roles, trying to get professional credibility and the likes, right? Now, my first degree was in mathematics and statistics, and then I got a master's in actuarial science, majoring in financial mathematics and statistical methods. So I would say right from start, right, I already have a very strong background in mathematical and statistical methodologies in solving, real problems. But having an education is one thing, and becoming a professional in a very specific field is a totally different ballgame entirely. And then when I finished school, somewhere around mid to, around 2007, 2008, when I finished my master's degree, getting the right job was a bit of a task. So I worked different kind of jobs. I worked as a sales representative in a supermarket. During that time, I worked as a porter in a restaurant, but with a specific goal in mind. And during those times, I was doing these jobs, trying to get, a more professional kind of job. I was also doing what we call part-time tutoring, right? So then I was in the UK, right? So I registered with certain organizations that would send you to help certain university students solve their problems. And that was the time I really gathered a lot of diverse information, because I didn't have the luxury to refuse to go for certain kind of assignments. It was good. And it was during one of those sort of engagements that I ended up getting my first role as a business analyst then. And that was in 2008, and to be precise, December 2008. So I got my role as a business analyst, and from there, I moved a lot through various organizations, working in various departments. Now, the thing I learned the most during this phase of my development, and all was centered around, because of my degrees and what I have done in the past, it was all centered around some sort of data analytics role. So I could be working on SPSS in an organization, and the next organization have a totally different structure that would require you to work on e-views, and the next one have a totally different structures that would need SPSS statistics and the likes. So I had to develop multiple skills as I moved from organization to organization while trying to form myself as a professional in a very specific area. Now, getting a job as a foreigner, in a foreign country was quite tasking at the time. But having been into the system, I didn't really have the luxury to look for that perfect role that would suit my goal. It was during this time of moving from point to point that I eventually found that I really had a very, very strong skill set in data analytics, right? And then started to coin a niche around that space. So that is me on just talking about my earlier jobs. And now, based on those information, I started to become a professional, right, in data, and I started to put myself forward as a data professional, trying to get those kind of roles that would fit, that's the things that I want to do. Now, it didn't really go smoothly around that. I had to also work as a financial analyst because coincidentally, I was also qualified as a financial analyst because I was chartered from the Institute of Securities and Investments down in the UK then as well. So I worked as a financial analyst. I built financial models and everything, but having the data set, the data role in mind. And eventually, I did get the perfect role, but that was after 8 years of working as a professional. Right, I eventually got the perfect role as head of a data analytics function in an organization. So I'm talking of the perfect role. So my point here is that I had to wait and I was patient for that role to come up, and I wasn't really stuck on any specific application or any specific process or anything. I had the degrees, I had the qualifications as well at the time, but I didn't have the role. But now I had the role, which is a data analytics manager in an international organization. My goal after that was to now build professional credibility in what I would call the open market, right? So I wanted a situation where if you Google my name, it should be associated with data rather than some other things. So I started taking out engagements, things like training, things like speaking one or two functions and everything, just to help me gain a little bit of credibility around the data. So Michael, please confirm if you can hear me well.
Yes, and 2 questions have come in.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to ask them now or I should
ask them now
before I ask them.
No, you can go on. I can
great.
Quickly answer.
So okay, one question is what's the name of the outfit you registered with in the UK to help tutor university students?
Okay, so that was a long time ago. I'm talking of 2007, 2008. Now I would have to get back on you that I honestly cannot remember. And I'm quite sure that they probably wouldn't even be operational at the moment. I can't remember.
I can even use this opportunity to ask you, do you have like maybe somewhere that they can connect with you? So maybe it could be YouTube, it could be your LinkedIn, it could be so people can also keep that connection with you. So the second question someone asked, if you have, just let me know so I can also, whichever you prefer. If you want me to share your LinkedIn profile with them, or if there's anything
please
you
go
want
on.
me to share
Yes, you can share the LinkedIn profile.
Okay, I will. Then the second question is, how do you balance between these multiple skills? So I mentioned to them, let me just tell you what I've done before or now. So I told them that, that you are a multi-platform person and you've been on both the consulting training and the official work side of it all. and that you've executed projects and training. One time when I was a bit close to you and both of us were in this consulting space, I've seen you execute training projects using NIME, Tableau, Spotfire, even the Power BI and Click, and even regular BI, the Microsoft BI. So I guess maybe that forms part of the background of his question, that how do you balance all these multiple skills?
It's like learning a language. If you already know it, you know it, right? So the only there's no you don't have to balance it. If I know a particular application, right, I already know it. I've learned it. I've taken the time to learn it and master it. And at the point where, without any upgrade, I know the application to that point. For instance, now let's say I haven't used Tableau professionally for the past year and a half right now, right? Yeah, but at some point I was running Tableau projects. At some point I performed Tableau trainings. But Tableau as a platform must have evolved, might be a bit different from what it is then to what it is now, you know. So if I get to face Tableau, I would obviously still have to, learn a bit about the application and how it has evolved over time that I have been away. But that's my learning curve is going to be, the learning time is going to be quite short. It might be a thing of a day or two, or three at most, and then you're hands-on on that particular project. So it's like speaking a language, right? You can pick up multiple language as you go. You don't necessarily have to forget the initial one or try to balance between languages. You just know how to speak the language and then you move on. I don't know. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thanks. Yes, so
okay.
You can carry on. If any more questions, I will let you know.
Okay, thank you. So now going about getting professional credibility. So I went about trying to get that, and after all that, I actively sought out international training opportunities where I get to be, the one to try to train international organizations in doing certain things. And luckily for me, one of the universities, decided to bring me on board as one of their international mentors, right? Obviously, there was a lot of verification and testing process and trying to test the skills, and these are live. And that was for a data science, a postgraduate data science program that I had to take and I had to qualify for. And the good thing is that I passed, I qualified as one of the best mentors, and I've been doing that ever since. And after that, obviously, I've associated myself with a few more universities and also, consulting and all the likes. Now, the key here is that during this process, right, I had to continually improve myself, right? So it wasn't a case for me of trying to get a, what I would call it wasn't just a passion for me, it was a necessity. I needed to go into an area that I felt was difficult enough for me to stand out and earn the way I want to earn so that I could live the life I want to live. So I had a goal in mind and a career, stages and progression in mind, and I stuck to it. Even when things was not going according to plan, I stuck to it. When I was working in a supermarket, I stuck to it. When I was washing dishes at the back of a hotel, I stuck to it. When I was doing trainings for university students, and eventually, it paid off, right, over the years, over a period of 13 to 15 years to where I am right now. Right now, other than trying to learn new things, I'll give you a quick typical example. Right, so we started using Arrow sometimes in the early 2011 2012 ish. We started using Arrow was a big thing for data analytics, right? And then we tried to master the platform. We mastered it. We did projects on it. We did trainings on it and the likes, right? But now you have great competition from Python, and most of my tutoring, most of my lectures, most of my work that is being done in the advanced analytical space uses Python and not Arrow, which means I had to learn Python and master Python and grow in the whole Python space. So those are one of the areas, and then when a new application comes out, you have to learn it as well. I remember when we did Excel, with the whole Excel group thing. Michael, I'm sure Michael remembers very well. He was part of the Excel group, and we're all pushing, oh, Excel is the best thing to happen, and other likes. And then Power BI came along, and we all went and we learned Power BI, and then more applications keep coming along, and then we move into the next application, and now we are in a position whereby it's not the application that matters anymore, right? It's the problem that needs to be solved. The project determines the application that you would use for execution. And also remember that you might be limited to certain applications based on the project or the organization that you're with. You could be in an organization and the method of storing information is in SQL Server. And you go to the next organization and the method of storing information is in Oracle. And then a totally different organization is using full-blown AWS and the likes, a totally different cloud platform other than Azure and the likes, right? You have to adjust as a data professional to these scenarios. So your ability is your main strength is your ability to adapt to the requirements in front of you, right? Now, mastering the platform is good. It gives you like a front of a way into the building, like a door to get in, right? You get in with a platform, but you need to master the whole analytical spectrum. You need to master the way you think about data, the way you solve problems, and the way you provide solutions. So that is me. That is my journey so far to date. So basically, I work as a consultant. I do a bit of lecturing, and it's all around data analytics now. Hardly anything else. Now, in terms of exploring other areas of specialization, right? Currently, I'm exploring game development using C#. So I had to learn the C# language, which was a bit nice, a bit different from what you would have learned, if you're already into the scripting languages, the arrows and the Pythons. Yeah, but I had to learn C# and they were making headway there. I also have to very recently I started going into the application development space using Django as a framework, obviously, domiciled in Python, right? Now, I might not become a professional in these two areas, but it helps me, try to remove focus a little bit from the analytics and do something else. And obviously, when I get back to my analytics, just a bit of a distraction, I get to focus more and do other things. So that's the summary of my journey as it is to date, right? Now, so I have just two slides. Do you have some questions before I go to the next one?
Yes, there's one question. So let me read out the question. The person says data is the new oil, data is life, data science, data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence are the pop words today. For someone seeking a career into AI and ML, what is your advice, please?
Okay, so that's the advice that you get in this sheet that we're about to go through, right? Okay, so I'm talking about now developing yourself in a structured. So maybe when I go through this, that would have answered your question, right? Developing yourself in a structured analytical, stage. Assuming you're coming from a situation where you do not have a very strong background in analytics, you're coming from a different educational background, you're coming from a different career background, you're the likes of me that was working in the supermarket, you're the likes of me that is working in a hotel, like I did in the past, or whatever situation you find yourself, and you want to build a career, or even you're already a manager somewhere in a totally different environment, but you want to build a career in the analytics space. There might be a structured way for you to go about it. And I tell people, right, so you might want to get familiar with your spreadsheet, the most common one out there being Excel. Want to get familiar with Excel, because the truth is that Excel would always pop up at some point in your analytical journey, whether you are a master data scientist or you're a starter in the space. So if you get comfortable with Excel, understand how the syntax works, how the codes work, how the language works, understand how to use it and everything. That is always one of the easiest places to start your analytical journey, right? You could do some level of data analytics in Excel. You could actually take it to a very, very high level where you could get nice visualizations, nice reports and everything based on Excel. Now, if you've done that, right, the next thing you have to understand how database and query languages work. There is no two ways about it, because if you're going to present yourself as a data analytics specialist in corporate organizations, you're most likely going to have to pull information from structured databases, right? Or you might have to pull information from the likes of NoSQLs and the likes. So you need to understand a database query language. You need to understand the way for you to pull information for storage systems. And the most common one out there is SQL, right? So you might want to put that in your toolbox as well. Having done that, you also now need to start thinking about your ability to visualize information using structured data visualization tools. Now, there are dedicated platforms for this, the likes of Power BI, the likes of Tableau, the likes of Click. These are applications out there that are solely focused on data visualization and data analysis and visualization. So you need to consider these things, because no matter how far you go in your analytical journey, down to the most advanced data science applications, at some point you might need to do a presentation, and it will almost always boil down to a data visualization platform. Okay. Now, haven't done that. Okay, go on.
Sorry about that. So someone who knows you, interestingly,
Okay.
when Charles had his session, the person who knows Charles, they were both with Helios Towers, and she knows you also from IHS. Her name is Tayo. She said she's proud of you. They are all proud of you, and they are happy to be part of this session. Yeah? So I said, let me pass that across to you.
Hello, Tayo. I'm quite aware, and I have one of your products I got from you right in front of me. Don't worry about it. But I'm looking at it right now. So I remember well. Okay, so that's your data, the data analysis and data visualization that you have to master. These applications are out there for you to understand, for you to master, and all that. Haven't done that, right? Combining the database query language and your data visualizations to typically, this is what is being packaged as business intelligence and data visualization. So you would have mastered this this unique field. Is a totally big field on its own. You could spend your whole career in that whole space, just trying to analyze and make sense of information as they come in, as a data professional. So you could do this, but you could as well try to specialize a bit more and say, okay, I want to understand open source data analytics platform. This open source data analytics platform that I'm referring to here is Arrow and the likes of Arrow and Python, right? These are very common, data analytics scripting languages that are available for people to learn and use. So you might want to consider taking it a step forward after that point, and go deeper into using the scripting languages to try to get some analytics done. The advantage that the scripting languages have over the structured systems is that it is basically, I don't want to say unlimited, but you could basically do a lot more on them, right? You have the flexibility to do a lot more other than just being focused on visualizations that has been provided to you. So you could do that, and a lot of these languages have been incorporated into corporate analytical platforms as well, right? So I'm not moving from the your standard business intelligence and data analytics to the more traditional, what I like to call advanced analytics. People call it data science, and people call it machine learning experts and everything. So these open source applications that you would use, typically have to understand to get these things done. Yeah. Now, straight after this, in corporate organizations, right, they are going to offer you cloud services. Well, most of the new ones anyway, offer you cloud services and corporate analytics platform, right? Because of security issues and the likes, right? So if you want to do advanced analytics in a corporate environment, you might not be able to just pull out Jupyter notebooks from Anaconda, right, and then start to write your Python codes. You might have to do that particular process on Azure ML. You might have to do that particular process on MIME, or you might be in an organization that deploys AutoX, right? So depending on where you find yourself, these applications you have to learn, you have to master. Most likely, you can take trainings on them, official trainings, or you could learn them yourself. You have information available on Google that is unbelievable, that you could learn so much from. Now, these structures that I have just highlighted could take you from being a business intelligence specialist down to being, a professional in data science and the likes. I have displayed a bit of quick short pictures underneath, just trying to show the different applications that you might want to think about in terms of R, Python, AWS, Azure, SQL, Tableau, Power BI, and the likes. So in a quick nutshell.
So I have a question. Okay, just to also say, because I think that the team's me showing that thing that's showing that you're on a call with me. Maybe if you can help us minimize. I think it's blocking one of the images.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that they will also see that there's a do.
And
so someone, is saying, I'm sure you will have an interesting way of answering this question. So he said he's seen a part, in the list of guests, and so he's saying that it's like all of them are working in telco or oil and gas. Because Charles did the first session, Victor had the Excel session.
Okay.
And there's you, and he's thinking like, so he's saying, does it mean that that you get more experts in that space, maybe because there's more data there? So I'm guessing what he's trying to say is, does it have any impact? The industry one is before one can get the ability and the exposure to work on data at a very serious level.
Okay, so yes, I have experiences with telcos and the likes, but most of my consulting is done in the financial space now, right? So, for banks. A bank, I'm a full-time consultant in a bank, and internationally, I work in different rates. But, luckily for us in the data space, data is everywhere. Data is in marketing. Data is in the financial sector. Is in the telco sector. It's everywhere, right? Every situation where you need to put a structure where to capture information and analyze as data. It could go as far, as this morning, all the analytics I was doing was based on WhatsApp groups, right? So I was using Python to analyze the data in WhatsApp groups. Now, I'm sure that is a little bit unorthodox, right? Because who would have thought WhatsApp advanced analytics, how does that study? But yes, I'm in a situation where I'm doing a consulting services for an organization that wants to understand and the kind of communications they get in their WhatsApp group. And that is what I'm doing. So there's data everywhere. It doesn't really matter the organization. Luckily for me, like I said, currently is more of the financial space right now. And that is good for me because, my early degrees are also in the financial space, actuarial science, although it's mathematically, mathematics and statistics driven, but driven for the financial sector. I hope that answers your question there.
Okay, so we have questions are pouring in now. All right, so I hope you're ready. And
yes.
So there's one that I think you will have to talk a lot. This person wants to hear some more specific things. So he's saying, Akim is his name, he's saying, which is better, Power BI or Tableau for visualization? Okay. Then another section of his question is saying, and again, between Python and R, which will you recommend? Okay. So that's one question. Maybe I should let you answer that before I ask. There's another question.
Okay.
So do you want me to read everything?
No. Let me take this two first, please. Okay. So now I don't really have a preference for applications. I see it more of a situation where the project determines the application I get to use and the constraints. If I don't have any specific constraints, now you have to now consider other things as pricing, deployment and the likes. Well, by strict definition, right, if you go to Gartner, right, Gartner have ratings for these applications based on users all over the world. So you're not just going to get a feedback from a single, user, but virtually a larger portion, right? So Power BI is rated number 1 in data visualization applications by Gartner. not by Evans, by Gartner. Power BI is rated number 1, and then I think Tableau and the likes comes up after that. And I understand why they would want to rate Power BI as number one, because it's quite easy to use, it's a lot cheaper, and for deployment it's more general. Microsoft applications are all over the place, right? So I would understand why they want to rate Power BI number 1. And also Power BI have a lot of visualization and flexibility, and also a lot of support online that you could get. So Gartner, question to Power BI versus Tableau, Gartner says Power BI. Now the question Python versus Arrow is a little bit tricky to say, because Arrow is mainly for statistical analysis, while Python is a programming language. So these two are quite different. Arrow has been built to do statistical computations and the likes, but Python is a more general programming language. You could use Python to build an application. You could use Python to do virtually almost anything, right? Now, the reason why Python have grown, a lot of data scientists have grown so fond of Python recently is simply because of neural networks. Right. First of all, Python, obviously, the code is quite easy. So it's object-oriented programming and the like. So the codes are quite easier to flow and write. If you ventured into Python or into C#, you'll understand a little bit the likes of C#. They're a little bit all over the place. Unlike Python, you declare variable, you define a function, you use it, you define the class, and the function underneath and the like. So it's quite structured and easy to use. So for data analytics, based on current trend, the Python is more favored than R, if I have to put it that way. But like I said, based on organization that you're with, if your organization chooses Arrow, and then that's what you have to work with. So it's not a matter of choice, though. It's a matter of the tasks in front of you.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I will move to another question. So this person also works with Sterling Bank, and he's saying, so his name is, maybe in case you might know him, Akinji Misheyi. So he says, I'm currently a customer service personnel in Sterling Bank as well. Please advise, what advice do you have for me as regards switching careers? So maybe just to elaborate, these are things that we hear people ask a lot. In fact, they want to know, they are learning, and like you said, there's so many things. Look at your slide, see how much possible options. It's not like Excel where every company uses Excel. You can easily decide that you learn Excel and you are good to go. But when it comes to these data analytics, in being a professional in it, there are lots of options, and so a lot of people, they keep getting overwhelmed. And also when you're learning something and you're not easily able to practice it, so maybe you can help us elaborate on how someone starting out now who is in a different job role, maybe he doesn't even have the actuarial and the scientific background and some other structured education that makes things a bit easier for those who have it. How should they navigate from going to zero to becoming someone that is hired in organizations internationally to do data analytics?
Okay, the first thing you have to do is have the capacity to do the analytics first, right? Or well, if you're lucky, you could get the role and learn how to do the analytics, in the job. Well, assuming you're already in the job, right, and you're trying to, you're trying to get the role, you could. Obviously, to learn it, you have to learn it based on certain applications, right? So you need to learn, like I said, you need to learn. For instance, you're in an environment where Power BI is very common. So you master Power BI and you put Power BI in front of you as a form of professional credibility that I know Power BI, I have mastered Power BI. If you have any problems as it concerns Power BI for your data analytics, I am capable of solving that particular problem. So you've mastered something, right? So that means you have some confidence, some kind of skill sets in the space. Now the next thing is to try to get the job, right? And in trying to get the job, you are going to have to rework your CV, You're going to have to get projects under the bed. So you might want to try to attach yourself to projects out there. Try to, if you don't have corporate projects to attach yourself to, you might want to create a project for yourself, complete the project and put it in like a portfolio, right? You need to get credibility in terms of the area that you're looking to get a job in. So for instance, if you go on LinkedIn, you should follow groups that are associated with data, right? If you follow people that are associated with data also, so that when people go online and try to get people that are connected to data, your own, profile list will also pop up, And if you have done all these things, and then you apply for the jobs, you have to be brave. Apply for the jobs, rework your CV. So even if you are working in customer service, there's a way you will rework your CV in customer service that it will look like you are the head of data in customer service, right? So you might want to consider that. So it doesn't really matter the role itself, but it needs to matter what are you doing in customer service. Or within my space in customer service, I could analyze the data that I'm getting from my communications with customers, and I could do this reports and I could do that and everything. I've seen someone that went, from being a answering calls in customer service situation to being, the guy in charge of analytics in customer service. And if Michael can remember, I'm sure Michael is also familiar with this particular guy way back around, that was around 2012, 2013, 2014-ish, And since then, he has built himself in the data analytics space, but he started from customer service as well, so there's nothing stopping you. I hope that answers your question, please.
Yes. And then there's someone okay, maybe the same person, and there's one other aspect of his question that I didn't see before. So he also asked, that as an aspiring data analyst, I have had hands-on practice on Power BI. I can also use R as tools in data analytics. I think, okay, maybe that was like a precursor question. Okay. All right. Yeah, so there's someone else who both of us know, Celestine, he's also in the consulting space. So he's saying, and he also just asks, I'm guessing maybe he's asking for other people. He say, do I need a deep knowledge of calculus for advanced data analysis?
No, in this day and age, right? So the machine does a lot for us, right? So if you pick a typical machine learning algorithm and decide to write a machine learning script in Python, for instance, so you import the library, you do your exploratory data analytics on the data, right? And then you split the data, you call on the library, from, let's say, you call on support vector machine from sklearn, right? So you call on the particular library that you want, you implement, you run the code. There is no point in between that you had to do any calculus computation, right? Your whole knowledge in calculus and everything just gives you a tiny little bit of an edge for you to understand complex algorithms. You might never see calculus. Listen, so the machines would handle a lot of the heavy lifting for you. You just need to know how it works and understand the whole data flow. So, Oga Celestine, you don't really have to master calculus at this stage. Applications do quite a lot for us now. I hope that answers the question, Celestine.
And someone is also asking, so he says, talking about implementations, some clients do insist on on-premise deployment with the excuse of data security. You're even in the best position to answer this, because banks usually have those kind of worry about their data security and all of that. So he's saying, the excuse of this data security, but now with this COVID-19 that has humbled everybody, they are now, let me read it the way he's saying. Talking about implementation, some clients do insist on on-premise deployment with the excuse of data security. Now it seems COVID-19 has humbled everyone and they are not moving towards cloud. What would you say is the future of data? That's how we said it.
So cloud technology is obviously the future in regarding comparison to on-prem. Even banks that were usually a bit rigid in on-premise security, most banks, especially in Nigeria now, have cloud services. They have deployed Azure. I work majorly from home for a bank, and I have access to all the data that I need. I have access to the applications I need. I have a virtual machine that I work with. I have a laptop online that I work with in simple terms, virtual machine, and that virtual machine connects to the database that is in a cloud, and all of that. So that is the structure that most big organizations that can afford it are deploying right now. But in a case where you're in an organization that have to deal with on-prem systems, then that is what you have to deal with, which means you have to go and connect to the systems and do your analysis from there. But the future is the cloud. Yes, I hope that answers that question.
All right. He was even correcting me that it means they now move to clouds, which coincidentally is what you two are saying in your answer. So good. Another question has come in, and so this person is asking, what is your take on no or low code analytics software for breaking into the data analytics space?
Okay, so my take on that is that without proper background or proper understanding of what I would typically call the open source applications, the likes of Arrow and Python, and then you use the likes of the clicks, points, drag and drop, the likes of the drag and drop for the analytics. So which is for advanced analytics, you have the NIMEs, the Autorex, the rapid miners that you basically can just drag, drop, and do. You will get the job done, right? But what happens when you go to a different scenario, a different project that don't have that particular application? What happens when the exact codes that you want to write, the exact process that you want to write, there is no node available for that? Now, if for instance let's say I pick NIME, right? If you have a problem, you could get what you call a Python snippet or an Arrow snippet, which gives you the ability to write that Python and Arrow code to solve that particular problem, because the corporate analytical platform that you're using, in this case NIME, does not have a special node for that. So your level of flexibility, understanding open source codes, is a lot more, but it doesn't also stop you from getting the job done. I'm just saying, if you know more, you have more tools within your toolbox to do the job. So as a start, to get yourself in the door, you could do that, right? You could master an application, like I said, and just use it like a credibility, like a verification. Like, see, I know this platform, I can solve problems using this platform. But when you're in, my advice is for you to continuously develop yourself, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're dependent on any platform. You want to be as flexible and as dynamic as possible. That way, your potential solutions to problems will be quite robust. Just my opinion, and I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so great. So one question that we get a lot, I operate in the Power BI space in terms of, yes, I relate more to people who they want to learn Power BI, and then this is one question that I come across a lot that I feel you are in a better position to answer. So it is this: the typical kind of person that that asks this question is someone who knows Excel. He's been using Excel very well. Maybe he works with an international organization or he works in an FMCG. So he uses it intensely in automating reports, in doing this. He's seen the power and he's also seen the limitations. He's seen some of the things they struggle with that they wish they can do better. And then, they keep asking what's the next phase. And then some of them think, okay, VBA. And then some recently have been saying, okay, Microsoft is also pushing Power BI, and they hear that Power BI do these things also amazingly, some of these things. And so that brings them to Power BI. And then they also hear about other tools anyway. So the where the confusions begin to set in is this. Because they work in an environment where it's, even if they choose all the tools, it's not all the tools that they can use in that place where they work. And so, and then they're also considering their career growth, their development, because again, if you limit yourself to what just your company use, one day they will use what you don't know, and you will be like, they will just suddenly get somebody that can use it, or they will have hired someone who they hired because the person can use it, and the person, puts you in a bad shape anyway. So my question is this: for people who already are heavily into the traditional, coming from this analysis of data for company, supporting management with reports, and then they want to do more. They want to help management with showing strategic report, forecasting the demand, and they don't want to limit themselves to the normal, let's just add it by some growth percentage. All those things we do in Excel, just using simple formulas. Or they don't just want to limit themselves to even the drag and drop features in Power BI that doesn't so much also capture those uh, advanced analytics and forecast. They want to also extend into that, but they want to also let whatever they are doing be able to plug back into their company. So what are your advice for them? How can they, leverage what they already know to expand into that thing that they really like, and what's the practical way they should go about it?
Oh, okay. So first of all, you need to understand. So they need to understand the power that they have in some of these applications. And I'll use Power BI as an example. Power BI is a very, very powerful data analytics and visualization platform. I say data analytics first, because it's not just about the visualization in platform. It's not just about the basic, oh, I want to plot a bar chart, I want to plot a pie chart, or the likes, right? In Power BI, for instance, I could write arrow codes. In Power BI, I could write Python codes of recent as well, which means, I could go in there and use some of these advanced functions that we have in some of these open source applications, right? And get some of the solutions that I need. Obviously, Power BI also provides its own forecasting methodologies, its own, and all that. They are all available if you know where to look and if you know how to use them. But you're also not limited to what itself could provide. Like I said, a lot of these applications are also, creating room for you to write your own scripts to solve very specific problems that their own platform might not be able to give to you easily, right? So in Power BI, you could write arrow scripts. In Power BI, you could write Python scripts. Just you need to understand it deep enough to be able to do that. So that's one. Knowing fully well the power of some of these applications that you have within your graphs and mastering it is one key way of solving that problems. Also, having an understanding, right, of the section of the segments that you're working on, and at least a tool around that segment would go a long way. So if I have a project that says, okay, get the data, clean it up, do some form of analytics, advanced analytics, and eventually visualize the whole result for management to make a decision. That is what I'll call an analytical pipeline that needs to take place, right? I now need to do an analysis of the applications that are available for me for this particular pipeline in comparison with the skills that I have, right? So the particular pipeline might need do a bit of structuring in SQL, do a bit of advanced analytics. The question there is that, do I know R to do this advanced analytics? Do I know Python, or can I do it on Power BI, and the likes, right? And eventually, getting to what do I use to visualize this for management, and that being, let's say, Power BI, or whatever data visualization tool that you have. Understanding that pipeline and making sure that you have the skill set to solve every particular problem within that pipeline, and then the applications that are available to you is key. So my point here is that in an application such as Power BI, you might be able to do most of what I spoke about inside. You just need to understand the application deep enough to get that done. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think you could do that in Power BI because Michael, I'm sure you're a household name in that particular space.
You're correct. I've even had to do some things that involve me exploring the R and the Python. Yes, you're correct, sir. So two more questions have come in. So yes, one is, how do you integrate DevOps into deploying your machine learning models? Would you say that we do more of predictive as to prescriptive analytics presently in the country, and how do we move? So
okay, so this is two questions. So DevOps, right? So I'm not in DevOps. The deployment of a particular model is packaged as, so if I send information to DevOps for implementation, I package a pipeline for them to deploy, not the model itself. The model is just a little bit of that particular analytical pipeline, right? Going from, from connecting to particular databases to, restructuring the data, do what we call exploratory data analytics, picking models, creating a predictive model, do some other sorts of analytics or whatever needs to happen, and eventually getting the results. So everything put together is a pipeline. So that pipeline is what you package as sort of a product and give to DevOps for implementation, right? So I don't know if that answers the whole question with DevOps. So that is just, it's part of the product or the analytical pipeline that needs to be deployed. So they just deploy that package that you have given to them, right? And then making sure that it can connect to the right database and the results can obviously get to where it needs to get to, being, it could either be an application, it could be your system. And that whole process could be a process whereby there's an API that gathers certain data from an application, takes it through your pipeline. Your pipeline already has a model, does some kind of predictive analytics, based on the information that you've gotten from that API, and then sends the result through an API back to the application that needs to consume it. Okay, so that's for, I hope that answers the whole DevOps question. It was, the question was a little bit not too clear for me with regards to the DevOps. Now the second, Michael, can you please just go around the second part?
The second one is, okay. Would you say that we do more of predictive as to prescriptive analytics presently in the country, and how do we move?
I cannot possibly generalize for the country, mainly because I only work within my own space and the projects that I that I face. Now, doing predictive, it depends on the project that you need to work on. Now, there are some projects that we just need to stop at a predictive model, and there are some projects that you need to go as far as making prescription, for certain actions to be taken, or to prescribe certain actions to be taken to management. For instance, now you have a situation where I'm just trying to quickly think of an example. Right. And you have a situation where you are trying to predict. Okay. Now you have a situation where you are working in the medical field, right? And you're just trying to predict if a patient have a certain disease, let's say cancer. Based on information that has been gathered and has been passed through the system, you're trying to predict, does this patient, based on the data that we have gathered around this patient, have cancer, yes or no? That is a simple prediction. That is all that is required, a yes or no answer, and obviously based on your probability of you being correct for that particular project. That is what you need. Now, a platform such as Netflix would want to prescribe certain movies that you would watch, right? Is a totally different project entirely. So which means you have to work on not just making a prediction, but also prescribing information or certain parts for the user to take. And in this instance, trying to prescribe a movie for each particular customer. So I wouldn't say there is a more of this and less of this, or less of this and more of this. I'm just saying it just depends on projects that you're working with. And I'm not in a position to generalize for the full country. I hope that answers that.
So thank you. So we are running out of time, so there are just 6 more minutes to be 1 hour. But if you want, you can extend it by 10 minutes. So let's say maybe we have just 10 more minutes. So
it's up to you, Michael. It depends on when you want to stop the questions coming.
Okay, great. So there are 2 more questions that have come in, and there's maybe this will be the last 2 questions we will take. And then I also wanted to mention, which has been the most exciting project you've worked on, something that for you are like, maybe the process or is the end result or what the thing was supposed to achieve, that whatsoever for you that make you classify it as the most exciting, maybe you tell us about that. So let me just go to one of the 2 last questions. So someone is asking, hackers are everywhere now. like BRT buses. I guess maybe it means like inside BRT buses. I don't get that part. But it says how much of data security should be employed and what are the concerns? Your point of view as a data consultant with a bank.
Okay, so data security, it's a very, very important part of the whole data analytics process. I don't know if you noticed, right, about 3 weeks ago or a month ago, even till now, right, there's been quite a bit of breach in customer data in terms of personal customer information that is out there, and a lot of scammers are using it to call people to try to scam them. If not, it has been quite rampant of recent. That has been a breach somewhere, in some really key important space in the financial sector. I'm not going to comment more on that than what I have said so far, right? So data security is very important because the repercussions for the customer is quite severe. You have people losing their whole savings, you have people losing everything that they have. So it's part about data security in terms of protecting the information of the customer, and also of recent in terms of communications, right? So you have to secure my information to prevent unnecessary communication from external bodies. So if I give you the data as your customer, you cannot share my information with a third party, even for communication purposes, even for marketing purposes, and all of that. So it's one of the most, one of the areas that have not really, a lot of companies have not focused too much on it, but I think is probably the most important area for people now. You have to look into it because the consequences is just too big in terms of it's kind of losses for the customer and in terms of reputational damage for the organization. Okay, so that's that question. Should I go on the project, or there's another question?
Yeah, there's one more question. Then you will now talk about the project. So the last question is, okay, kindly list out clear steps, like study, etc., to go from newbie to data scientist. Like as been earlier said, COVID-19 is an awakening. So I think, he wants to know in clear steps, maybe study, etc., to go from being a newbie to a data scientist.
Okay, so why don't you just look at the visualization I have. Sorry, what's it called again? The PowerPoint slide I have in front of you, right? Okay. So you could master your spreadsheets, Excel, right? Google Docs, whatever. You could master your spreadsheets, right? You should learn SQL, as a query language. After that, right, understand SQL. Now, understand your data analysis, using data visualization tool, which means understand and master your Power BI, right? Now, with these three, you could move from a newbie to a professional in business intelligence, right? Understand your Excel, understand your SQL language, query language, understand your Power BI or whatever data visualization tool you have, within your graphs, right? And then you could do that. Now, moving forward and becoming a data scientist, you need to learn one of the open source analytics platform. You need to either learn R or Python. I don't think there's any other way around that for now. So if you've now gone ahead and you've learned R or you've learned Python or you've learned both, like some of us did, right? You could now say, okay, I want to maybe understand a bit of some things about cloud services, right? Or also understand a bit of, corporate data analytics platform. That could be, Azure ML, could be NIME, could be Autorex, and the likes. Or you want to go deeper into big data. But I think the first three it's a prerequisite, right? So I hope that helps a little bit. Your spreadsheets, your query language, and your data visualization tool. Hopefully in that order.
Thank you for that. So we are going to your project, but somebody slipped in one question now. So I would just say you should bundle it with the project answer. In fact, another person has slipped in another question. Why don't you just wait to the end? So maybe I'll just read it too, and if you can just merge the answer together, and then talk about
Okay.
the project that you found most exciting. Like, so the question one is actuarial career still relevant in today's world? Then question two is, how does domain knowledge help in prescriptive, aid both prescriptive and predictive analytics? Would you say it's better to train people with domain knowledge in analytics or to hire, will you hire people who already have the domain knowledge, or you can go okay with training people who don't have the domain knowledge or have the analytics? So, two questions. Is actuarial career still relevant in today's world? Question two, how does domain knowledge aid both prescriptive and predictive analytics? Would you say it's better to train people with domain knowledge or in analytics, or you can hire? Then you
Okay.
mentioned
So yeah.
all right.
Okay, I'll say the actual trial is very, very, relevant into this world, because there are certain kind of organizations, certain kind of businesses that you run that you need to have a qualified actuary, or else, it's a must, it's a prerequisite for you to have certain kind of organization, especially in the insurance sector, right? You need to have a qualified actuary within the organization, or else you cannot have the license. And it is that actor, is that professional that would sign off on certain kind of models that has been built in terms of predicting the kind of annuity that needs to be paid, in terms of predicting your probability of dying within the X amount of time, in terms of predicting your probability of getting an accident. They need to sign up on it officially. It's like having an accountant, right, in organizations, just that the actuaries earn a lot more than your accountants. So it is very, very relevant in certain space, and that is the insurance and the investment space is a prerequisite. Now, for domain knowledge, I would say, see, domain knowledge is key for any major analytical process. Now, what organizations do is that the domain knowledge they most likely have within their space, it is usually the analytical skill set that is missing. And the question is, can you take someone with domain knowledge and give him the required analytical skill set within that short space of time that you have to perform that task? The answer is likely going to be a big fat no. No matter how you want to disguise it, you cannot train somebody in 3 months and you expect him to be a master in a field, in a whole profession. It's not going to happen. And sadly, it's what most organizations try to do. It doesn't work that way. The shortest solution for you is to pair them, right? If you have a strong analytics professional, you can pair that person with a domain knowledge professional, within that space, right? And they can collaborate and get the work done for you. And the best case scenario is to get someone, all data analytics professional obviously have domain knowledge somewhere, because you have to be focused somewhere. You could either be, domain knowledge in finance, you could be in telecoms, you could be in the medical space, based on your background. Now that is obviously the most perfect combination. But even with that, you still need people in the business to support. No matter how we look at it, analytics is a support function, and it's a support function for certain businesses or certain departments or processes in the organization. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. And very quickly, I'll just talk of the project. Now, I've been on, choosing a in quotes, a special project. It's almost impossible, right? Because you get to face projects on a very, very regular basis, and each of them giving you a totally different kind of results. But what I found most exciting of recent is the ability to apply advanced analytics in communications in terms of emails, and the result is astonishing, right? Analytics in terms of the way you compose an email and increases the probability that the person is going to click, the person is going to buy, the person is going to have a look, the person is going to associate you positively within their mindsets. I think that is the one within the last, I don't want to go too far, 3 months, that I find exceptionally, interesting, because applying, so for instance, you're sending out emails and you're getting an open rate of about, let's say, 7%, and you bring in some level of analytics, send time optimization, meaning I'm trying to analyze when is the best time to send an email to this person that would increase the likelihood of that person opening that email. Right, so send time optimization. that has tremendous impact, right? And if you look at yourself as a person, there are certain times that you get certain images, you're not going to look at it, and certain images comes at certain times, and you just have a quick look, right? Same time optimization. Now you could also do, in terms of analytics, how is it best to communicate to this person based on certain characteristics about the person, and these characteristics could be his education, his age, his gender, his location, his job type, right? These will determine how I communicate with him. And I'm going to design the process analytically such a way that by the time I feed in my data sets for different profiles, it automatically selects the right communication to use to push out certain, emails to these people. And it would also increase the ability for you to make a conversion being getting this person to buy something or getting them to do something tremendously. So that is the one I found quite interesting of recent, within the last 3 months. I don't want to go further than that, if you don't mind. So
thanks a lot, and it's been a pleasure, and it's been a great knowledge share. And you've answered today. You've got more questions than every other person that we've had to have a session with. To this, we had many other sessions before. I mean, 2 other sessions, and yours has been the most interactive. Like, the questions kept raining in, and I'm sure it's because they are seeing the value. They can relate with what you are saying. And thanks a lot for this time and this privilege. Hopefully, maybe I don't know if it will be this month or sometime in the future, we'll get you to maybe talk to us about something a little more specific in any choice of platform that you want. So thank you, and to everybody, thanks for also joining us, and we see you next week. And like I've put in the chat box, you can connect with Evans via his LinkedIn account, and then also you can also join our meetup to be aware of future events and recordings, to get the recording of this one. So thank you very much, and have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.